It's useless to wait for a breakthrough, for the revolution, the nuclear apocalypse, or a social movement. To go on waiting is madness. The catastrophe is not coming, it is here. We are already situated within the collapse of a civilization. It is within this reality that we must choose sides. This is part 2 of the, I don't even know what I'm calling it, understand what we're going through. How about that? This is part 2. If you saw part 1, again, I don't know what's part 1, 2, and 3. It's just a 3-part video thing. The first one I just recorded was with that Russian KBG defector, Yuri. This one, this episode I'm titling In Action. So first off, Coming Insurrection. What the heck is this book? What is this book I just read? This is the back flap that I just read to you that describes what's going on. This book was written by some French revolutionaries about 15 years ago. It is their radical leftist manifesto. There's no controversy in calling it a radical leftist manifesto. They're pretty, they celebrate that, in fact. What I want you to know is, again, what is going on in America right now, where a lot of us are looking with our speechless, our mouth wide open, saying, how can some people be so filled with rage and hate and nihilism, meaning burn it all to the ground. Nothing has value. It's so corrupt and so devious that it would be actually better if we burn it to the ground. Now, a lot of people would say, Ryan, stop it. You're being just a fear monger. You're not helping. But I want to go through these 3 episodes. That's why I put this together. None of what I present here will be easy to digest. You're going to have to really listen. You're going to have to really watch some of these videos I'm about to show you. But I think you'll understand it coming out on the back end. So I just want to read the first chapter of this book to you and then a few excerpts, okay? And that will give you an idea of what these people have been going through. This idea has come, first off, let me preface it with this. What's in this book is not just like somebody sat around and came up with it just to write some fan fiction or something fun for you to read and get excited about. This whole idea came from post-World War I, World War II Europe, where the working class, in the tens or even hundreds of millions in total, hundreds of millions of working men and women died in World War I and World War II. After that, in the 50s and 60s, a lot of very, very nihilistic philosophers and sociologists came into vogue. They were popular. A lot of them came from France. Jacques Derrida is one that people know the name of. He was one of the founders of the postmodern movement, where nothing has any meaning and everything that we as humans do is a simply in the moment power struggle. So values and morals and ethics are out the window. Now, let me read this chapter to you. It's only about 3 pages long, and I think you'll understand what I'm getting at here, okay? From whatever angle you approach it, the present offers no way out. This is not the least of its virtues. From those who seek hope above all, it tears away every firm ground. Those who claim to have solutions are contradicted almost immediately. Everyone agrees that things can only get worse. The future has no future is the wisdom of an age that, for all its appearance of perfect normalcy, has reached the level of consciousness of the first punks. The sphere of political representation has come to a close. From left to right, it's the same nothingness striking the pose of an emperor or savior. The same sales assistants adjusting their discourse according to their findings of the latest surveys. Those who still vote seem to have no other intention than to desecrate the ballot box by voting as a pure act of protest. We're beginning to suspect that it's only against voting itself that people continue to vote. Nothing we're being shown is adequate to the solution, not by far. In its very silence, the populace seems infinitely more mature than all these puppets bickering among themselves about how to govern it. The ramblings of any Bellevue Shabani contain more wisdom than all of the declarations of our so-called leaders. The lid on the social kettle is shut triple tight, and the pressure inside continues to build. From outside of Argentina, the specter of "Que se vayan todos" is beginning to seriously haunt the ruling class. That is a chant that says they all must go during protests in Argentina. The flames of November 2005 still flicker in everyone's mind. Those first joyous fires were the baptism of a decade full of promise. The media fable of Ben-Élu versus the Republic may work, but what it gains in effectiveness, it loses in truth. Fires were lit in the city centers, but this news was methodically suppressed. Whole streets in Barcelona burned in solidarity, but no one knew about it apart from the people living there. And it's not even true that the country has stopped burning. Many different profiles can be found among the arrested, with little that unites them besides a hatred for existing society, not class, race, or even neighborhood. What was new wasn't the Ben-Élu revolt, since that it was going on since the 80s, but the break with its established forms. These assailants no longer listened to anybody, neither to their big brothers and sisters nor the community organizers charged with overseeing the return to normal. No SOS racism could sink its cancerous roots into this event, whose apparent conclusions can be credited only to fatigue, falsification, and the media. This whole series of nocturnal vandalisms and anonymous attacks, this wordless destruction, has widened the breach between politics and the political. No one can honestly deny the obvious. This was an assault that made no demands, a threat without a message, and it had nothing to do with politics. One would have to be oblivious to the autonomous youth movements of the last 30 years not to see the purely political character of this resolute negation of politics. Like lost children, we trashed the prized trinkets of a society that deserves no more respect than the monuments of Paris at the end of Bloody Week, and knows it. There will be no social solution to the present solution. There will be no solution to the present situation. First, because of the vague aggregate of social milieux, institutions, and individualized bubbles that it is called, with a touch of antiphris society, has no consistency. Second, because there's no longer any language for common experience, and we cannot share wealth if we do not share a language. It took half a century of struggle around the Enlightenment to make the French Revolution possible, and a century of struggle around work to give birth to the fearsome welfare state. Struggles create the language in which a new order expresses itself, but there is nothing like that today. Europe is now a continent gone broke that secretly shops at discount stores and has to fly budget airlines if it wants to travel at all. Sounds a lot like America right now, right? No problems framed in social terms admit of a solution. The questions of pensions, on job security, and young people and their violence can only be held in suspense, while the situation these words serve to cover up is continually policed for signs of further unrest. Sounds like America, right? Nothing can make it attractive prospect to wipe the asses of pensioners for minimum wage. Those who have found less humiliation and more advantage in a life of crime than in sweeping floors will not turn in their weapons, and prison won't teach them to love society. Sounds like America, right? Cuts to the monthly pensions will undermine that desperate pleasure-seeking hordes of retirees, making them strew and splutter around about the refusal to work among even larger segment of youth. And finally, no guaranteed income, granted the day after a quasi-uprising, will be able to lay the foundation of a new deal, a new pact, or a new peace. The social feeling has already evaporated too much for that. As an attempted solution, the pressure to ensure that nothing happens together with police surveillance of the territory will only intensify. The unmanned drone that flew over the Saint-Denis last July 14th, as the police later confirmed, presents a much more vivid image of the future than all the fuzzy humanistic projects. That they were careful to assure us that the drone was unarmed gives us a clear indication of the road we're headed down. The territory will be partitioned into ever more restricted zones. Highways built around the borders of problem neighborhoods already form invisible walls closing off those areas from the middle-class subdivisions. Whatever defenders of the Republic may think, the control of neighborhoods by the community is manifestly the most effective means available. The purely metropolitan sections of the country, the main city centers, will go about their opulent lives in an ever more crafty, ever more sophisticated, ever more shimmering deconstruction. They will illuminate the whole planet with their glaring neon lights as the patrols of the back and private security companies, such as paramilitary units, proliferate under the umbrella of an increasingly shameless judicial protection. The impasse of the present everywhere is everywhere it's denied. There will be no end of psychologists, sociologists, and literary hacks applying themselves to the case, each with a specialized jargon from which the conclusions are especially absent. Sound like America right now? Virtue signaling. It's enough to listen to the songs of the times, the asinine alt-folk, where petty bourgeois dissects the state of its soul, next to the declarations of war from Mafia K1 Fry, to know what a certain coexistence will end soon, that a decision is near. This book is signed in the name of the imaginary collective. Its contributors are not its authors. They were not content merely to introduce a little order into the commonplaces of our time. Collecting some of the murmurings around barroom tables and behind closed bedroom doors, they've done nothing more than lay down a few necessary truths, whose universal repressions fill psychiatric hospitals with patients and eyes with pain. They've made themselves scribes of the situation. It's the privileged feature of radical circumstances that a rigorous application of logic leads to revolution. It's enough just to say what is before our eyes and not to shrink from the conclusions. What you'll find in this book, if you actually read it, is you'll find that you probably actually don't disagree with a lot of their criticisms of the world we're living in right now. That the haves have gotten so far away from the have-nots that they don't share a common language, that bread and circus or entertainment has really taken a front seat to any actual meaningful relationships and actions and responsibilities within our community. Speaking of responsibility, that we as individuals, not only have we given away and just stopped our personal responsibilities, but we also encourage and make excuses for our neighbors and other people within our community and country to not have to take responsibility. They mention that quite a few times. However, it's their solutions that scare the hell out of me, to be quite honest. The mindset of the people that wrote this, the mindset of the people who influenced the people that wrote this, and the mindset of a lot of the people in America right now, in my opinion, that share this mindset. Again, go read this book. It's 121 pages long. You'll have this done in a weekend or even a day if you're a fast reader. They call for a total dissolution of the country, of the economy. In fact, there's a quote right here that I like, that I had written down, that's actually in the Wikipedia. It says here, this is part of the fifth circle, they call it. We have to see that the economy is not in crisis. The economy itself is the crisis. See, the people who subscribe to this mindset, the people who are out there right now saying, slaves built this country, burn it all down, the people who have no concept of where this logically ends, that belief system, from what I can find and what I continue to read and what I continue to listen to others, it's a very, very godless, nihilistic, self-sacrificing belief. Clearly, these are very atheistic beliefs. There is no God, there is no religion. That's just superstition, right? It goes right in the face of the Western Judeo-Christian belief that you, as the individual, are completely and utterly responsible for everything around you, good, bad, and otherwise. Let me show you a video clip and a few things if you don't believe me. These are just from the last couple of weeks. You may have seen this one. What was this, in Seattle? I believe this was up in Seattle. Regardless, rioters throw a red pill through window of virtue signaling beer pong bros. Michael Knowles tweets, you can spend many years reading many books, like this one I just showed you, trying to understand liberal modern theory, or you can just watch this 24-second video. What happens here are these guys are up in their apartment cheering on the protests. They're like, yes, yes, go you, we love it. And watch what happens.
Looks like they're just finishing up now. Why are you... We're on your side! We're on your side! Holy shit! What? We're on your side! We're on your fucking side! What the fuck?
See, what these bros, as they say in the title, these guys, what they don't understand is that these people who believe this kind of stuff, these people who are out here, these people who are destroying the city and are the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, pulling all the levers behind this nationwide movement right now, they're on nobody's side. It doesn't matter how hard you virtue signal. It doesn't matter how great of an ally you are to the cause. They're on no one's side. There are no sides. And again, here's another one. This was a tweet from at the end of May 31st. This guy says, it's a famous quote. It got spray painted in a few different cities over these protests, but this phrase has been going around for a while. Liberals get the bullet too, is one of their mottos. More people on the left might want to realize that and come back to liberalism, which has no room for progressive, libertarian, conservatives, and everything in between. Now check this tweet out. It says, I'm devastated. We are a progressive newspaper. Last night I was inside when the first brick was thrown. This is what happened to a progressive newspaper who has been cheering on the Black Lives Matter movement, who has been cheering on the social justice movement, who have been keeping these people energized and spreading their thoughts on all of this. They're not on anyone's side. Here's another one. I showed this one to you guys. This was up in Seattle at Chaz. Just listen to how the woman describes the current situation, and then most importantly, listen to her solution to the current situation.
The question was answered when we interviewed Jaden Grayson, one of the leaders of this movement.
Every single day that I show up here, I'm not here to peacefully protest. I'm here to disrupt until my demands are met. You cannot rebuild until you break it all the way down. Respond to the demands of the people or prepare to be met with any means necessary. By any means necessary.
That's not just a slogan.
No. No. No, it's not a slogan. It's not even a warning. I'm letting people know what comes next. A response to violence is not violence itself.
The Republic of Chaz published a very clear list of demands. Among them was the abolishment of the police.
The Seattle Police Department turns in their badges, we'll have made a move forward.
In other words, not defund the police, abolish.
Abolish the police state.
Included in the lengthy manifesto was the demand to abolish the justice system. So speaking of the criminal justice system, do you think that it's so inherently biased, so inherently racist, that the criminal justice system, the courts, all of that need to be taken away?
Absolutely. Without question.
And then what?
Again, you're asking a question that cannot be answered. The unraveling that happens to that system is also exactly what will fuel the black minds and the black bodies that will recreate a new world.
Should we abolish the prison system?
Yes, we should get rid of it as we know it today.
Get rid of it.
Yeah.
Again, I have a friend, and he's a progressive Democrat. He and I go back and forth occasionally, and we talk about these issues. And he says, when people say abolish the police, they don't mean abolish the police, and anyone who says that's what they mean is just being dishonest. She sounded pretty darn convinced. Again, it's coming from this stuff. It's coming from such a deep-rooted distrust and hate for the current system that they want to burn it all to the ground. And what was her solution? She just said, there's no answer. First we have to burn it to the ground. It's very frustrating that people don't take this more seriously. This is the kind of mindset that we're dealing with here. Now, how do you deal with these kind of people? I'm not going to get into that because truthfully, I don't know. What, do you show them just unconditional love and then they just see the light? I don't think so. I think you have to get involved. You have to get involved in your city council, your school boards, your PTA, whatever it is. If you're in school, get involved in, student council. This is the mindset that we're dealing with here. Now, there's one other thing I wanted to show you. Actually, I'm going to save that for the next episode. I've already gone 20 minutes in. So to come full circle, you read this kind of stuff and you see it playing out in the country right now, and then a lot of people on the left who have been calling you a conspiracy theorist for your whole life, your whole adult life, describing this stuff, double down and say that, oh, you're just ignorant, you just don't understand. They're doing what they have written about and what they've called for, but that's not actually what they mean. This is what we're going through. This is part 2. Again, thanks for watching. Spread the word. Part 3 coming up next.